Greetings, hope this finds you well. Somebody on a previous video had commented about supporting Mike Gravel, not sure how you say his last name, for president, and that made me want to do some research around him because that person commented that they're supporting him to bring the Democratic Party further to the left. So I did a little bit of research on him. So he was an ex-senator from Alaska. He also ran for president in 2008, and something that kind of stands him apart from the other candidates is that he doesn't want to win. He is simply running to push the Democratic Party further to the left on some important issues, particularly on the military-industrial complex and the issue of imperialism. So it's kind of interesting story of how his campaign started. So two college students heard about his, presidential run in 2008 on a podcast, and they really liked, his positions or what he stood for, so they reached out to him with the idea of running so they could, Christy, leave it alone, please. So they could, because they thought that, Bernie and Tulsi and, Elizabeth Warren, those folks weren't quite as progressive as they would like to be, and they thought that if Mike Gravel ran for president that he would be able to get that message out. And then some of his platform, getting ready for the Electoral College, I definitely support that. That makes sense. Two out of the, George Bush, he got less votes than Al Gore, and then Trump also got less votes than Hillary. Fair elections, congressional oversight of federal elections, 12-year limit term for federal judges, abolishing the NSA, repealing the Patriot Act and the Espionage Act, rejoining the Paris Climate Accords, rejoining the UN Human Rights Council, ending the nuclear arms race, so sign and ratify the Treaty of Non-Proliferation, agreement of nuclear weapons, and unilateral sanctions against countries like what we have now against, Iran and Cuba, things like that, as well as no invasions unless a country or nation strikes us first, closing Guantanamo Bay, renaming the Department of Defense more accurately the Department of War, but also creating within that a Department of Peace and having a parity between funding between both the Department of Peace and the Department of War, bringing all the troops home, closing all 800 military bases that we have around the world, which is just nuts to think about because it's only 20 other countries have bases in other countries, and the most has 40, and yet we have 800. As well as reparations for places impacted by our military bases, because oftentimes those are some of the most heavily polluted places in the world. Cutting military spending by 50%, which is totally doable given that we spend I think it's close to $800 billion a year on the military, by far and away the most of any country in the world. I think it's even more than the next 10 countries combined. Joining the International Criminal Court, opposing Israeli apartheid, ending support for Saudi Arabia, ending foreign arms sales, education is a human right, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, public banking, Christy, please stop, progressive taxes, ending the war on drugs, legalizing marijuana, abolishing the death penalty. Honestly, I've read through his platform and everything that I've read about him. I definitely support all of his policy positions that I've seen so far. And then I read some articles about him on Truth Out and on the Atlantic website. I'll post those down below. And in order for him to get on the Democratic debate stage, which obviously would be kind of the goal of the campaign, so he can get that message out to a wider audience, he needs to collect 65,000 individual donations from individual donors. So even if you just donate like $1 or $2, it would be very helpful. So that's what I plan on doing, because I agree some of these issues, Bernie, Tulsi, etc., support, the Medicare for All, the Green New Deal, things like that, but I don't think they go as far on some of these issues as he does, like cutting the military, especially Bernie. He doesn't talk about the, military-industrial complex and imperialism, or, some of these things as progressively as Mike Gravel does. So I definitely think I'm glad that he is running, and like I said, he's not running to win. He's just running to bring more attention to these issues, and hopefully push these other candidates who do have a chance of winning further to the left on these issues. And I guess one of the things that he had kind of been talking about in the past, it obviously wasn't on his platform, but I guess he possibly might be one of those kind of 9/11 conspiracy theorist people, which I don't particularly agree with. But besides that, I haven't really read anything policy-wise, like I said, that I disagree with, and I really hope that he gets those 65,000 individual donations, because I think it would be super important to have him on that debate stage to bring light to these really important issues. So if you're able to, I'd highly encourage you to donate a couple bucks to his campaign, so he would be able to get on the Democratic debate stage. I would love to hear your thoughts on his platform, as well as just thoughts on his platform. Does he go too far in some instances, or is he kind of right on target with this stuff? So let's remember to be kind to each other, to the animals, to the planet, and to ourselves.